to...
Quentin, how you doing?
I'm all right, man. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So what have you been up to musically?
So musically, we've got a lot of exciting things that have just happened and exciting things that are coming up. My EP, Interlocker, is streaming now on all platforms via my 220 imprint. So you can find that and you can buy that wherever music is sold. I have a single called Nada coming out on Ritalin Records sometime in the next couple weeks. We're still finalizing a lot of details. And I have a track on one of the Incursion recordings compilations coming out later this year. So there's a lot of False Blonde to look forward to. And there's a lot more that's in the works that I can't talk about yet. So it's a great time to be in the industry.
Awesome.
All right, thanks for coming out, dude. We're gonna end the podcast there. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
No, for real though, I was listening to your Interlocker EP earlier today. Actually, a lot of good stuff in there.
Thanks, man. Really happy to hear that. Yeah, that track that you just put up on Soundation, I love it. Like the one from like 4 years ago, I absolutely love it.
Oh yeah, I was showing Tom and Gavin. Like I told them the whole story behind the Quantum project and what happened there.
No, I absolutely love that drum loop. Like it's amazing.
So speaking of Soundation, when's the last time you used it?
I'm on the website a lot more than I usually am lately, just because I'm in my house and I've got nothing else to do. So it's been fun. I've started interacting with a couple new people that I didn't know before, so that's fun. And it's nice to see, how many of my followers are like several years old and no longer use the website because.
Yeah.
I've got numbers in like the low hundreds, and yet when I just put something out and I don't spam it everywhere, I only get like 20 or 30 plays. So, I mean, that's just sort of how it is. Like, a Soundation is not a serious investment. It's actually, because I keep forgetting to cancel my fucking premium subscription, it's actually costing me a lot more money than I'm getting out of it. But it's sort of nostalgia value. Yeah, it just adds up. I think I've got fucking... You know what fucking got me was that 3-month free trial. Like when it does it monthly and then it gives you 3 free months. And I think that was like 6 or 7 months ago, and I haven't canceled my fucking account yet.
Oh, no.
Oh jeez.
Be nice if they sent you like a reminder email saying, "Hey, it's coming up."
Well, what happens is because I keep remembering. Oh fuck, I forgot to cancel. Like 2 months, no, like 2 weeks into the month, where you still got some time left on it. And once you cancel, like, it stops immediately. So I'm just like, I'll just keep it for the next couple weeks, and then I'll cancel it then. And then that never fucking happens.
Jeez.
Man.
Yeah, like, even, like what Gavin was saying, like, even a reminder, like an email, or even just, like, did they even send out receipts for that? Like electronic receipts?
No, they don't. I haven't gotten a receipt for it in ever. I just occasionally get a notification from my bank that the money's been withdrawn, and at that point, I'm just like, fuck it, too late.
Yeah, it's too far. It's pretty much like just too far to go back on at that point because they already have the money.
Yeah.
That's the Sound Nation for you.
Yeah.
That's the Soundation way, baby.
That it is.
Yeah, it's interesting how a lot of the followers that we got, coming up, like, no longer use this site, so our audience is actually fairly small.
Yeah, it's fun because it's like it's sort of like a dick pic. Our followers, like if you angle it the right way, like it looks big, but it's actually only 3.5 inches long. Sorry, Mom.
That's a good analogy.
Definitely,
thank you.
Relatable. Yeah.
Well, of course, Kevin.
Retweet.
We all know about your very small penis.
Laugh track.
Laugh track, yeah. I love it too how already Quentin is just coming out of the gate like with just like cussing and shit.
It's been
like
5
it was funny.
minutes, like
No, okay, so this is what happened on the last podcast that we did with Tom earlier today. He was about to swear and he like stopped himself. He's like, "Wait, can we swear?" I was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Let it rip, dude. We're all boys here."
Yeah, Soundation has retarded my emotional development by 5 to 7 years.
Yeah, then you're right on track.
Because think about it. Like, I don't understand what the appeal of the website is to children and early teens. But like, I messaged this dude the other day because, like, you know how most people on Soundation like are like actually terrible musicians.
Oh, whoa, okay.
Oof.
It's a big
Yeah,
take.
no, like most of them suck. That's just sort of how it is. And I found this one dude, and he's doing some really cool shit with the studio. And so I messaged him like, "Hey, I really like your stuff. Like, if you ever want, if you ever want to talk shop, like, like always feel free to message me." And he's just like, "Thanks, man." And then we chat for a couple days. This boy is 12 years old. I'm 20. It's not a good look.
12 years old.
Some people, or for one, there's a million that don't.
That was awesome. That was perfect.
So what
What
are you using now?
What am I using now? I've been a proud Logic user since December of 2014.
Nice.
How's that treating you?
It's been treating me super, super well. If I had kept using the studio, I would have hit a peak like 6 or 7 years ago, and then I just would have sat there, like, okay, like if music is making fire, Soundation is just sort of throwing two rocks together and hoping that eventually, like, you get a spark or some shit.
Yeah.
Like it's just not an efficient way to go about to go about making professional music. And I am a professional music producer and a professional DJ. I have a residency. Well, I had a residency before COVID at the Zoo Bar and Grill in Canberra, ACT, which is in Australia where I live, and that's been pretty good. So I actually have been deriving the majority of my income from being a professional musician for a couple of years now, and I wouldn't have been able to do that if I had kept using Soundation. What's interesting about Soundation and Logic is that when the new team, after they handed it over from our team that we know, the new team, they made it look almost exactly like Logic.
Yeah.
In like every conceivable way. Like the theming is similar, the stock plugins look really similar, the clip system, the automation system, it's all really similar. And even from Soundation, like the first Chrome Studio into Logic was a really smooth transition, because I'm not sure if I want to say they copied, because at a certain point there are only so many ways to arrange functions in a DAW, but the way that the softwares are controlled are very, very similar. So I had a very smooth transition. You can thank Daniel Elizalde, good old Ellie, for actually encouraging me to make that transition, because he got Logic about a year before I did, and he just wouldn't stop pestering me, dude, get Logic, get Logic, get Logic, get Logic, get Logic. And then I was like, all right.
He was like, fine, I'll do it.
Then, yeah, fine. All right, bet.
And here you are.
Yeah, here I am. Professional musician, okay numbers, working on it.
So, my opinion about Soundation, like, I do agree with a lot of what you said. Like, you can only go so far with it, but I do think that Soundation, like, for what it's worth, it's a pretty good stepping stone for people who want to be introduced into the concept of music making.
Oh no, definitely. It's great for what it is. The problem is that it just doesn't tell you what it is.
Right.
Well, because look at the marketing. It's trying to market itself as like a full-featured DAW that's also accessible on the internet and available for the low price of $10 a month. And
But in reality, it's not.
Right, and the sort of people it's being marketed to, they don't have, they don't have the understanding of how these softwares work to understand that, that's just not really possible. So they come in and they think that they're doing fine. And then they just sort of, when they reach their peak, they don't know that they've done that, because they think that they've tricked the system by, using this one cool website that does everything that the professional software does. I mean, that's not to say that you can't make professional sounding music with Soundation, because you can. There are certainly many examples of that throughout the site's history.
Mhm.
You know, not so much right now, like mostly a couple years ago. Like again, most of the people right now that they just kind of suck. But uh,
They're youngins.
yeah, yes, the youngins, literal children. I don't know why so many literal children are on the website.
I mean, it's cool that they're interested in like producing. I think that's
No,
great.
it's cool that they're interested. Like, if Soundation marketed itself as like an entry level DAW,
Yeah.
where you could like learn the basics and get most of the same features at a greatly reduced price while you see if it's for you, I feel like that would be a lot more honest than what they're doing right now. So I don't agree with their business model.
Mhm.
I mean, my biggest axe to grind with the new team is the limitation on projects for free users.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you know what would have happened if I joined Soundation in 2012, like I did, and I couldn't have saved more than 10 projects, is I just would have made 10 projects, and I just would have been, I guess I'll go play Minecraft and masturbate some more. Like,
Yeah.
Couldn't you like just export them as SNGs and like store them on a file?
I mean, I suppose you could, but that defeats the purpose in the first place, which is the cloud availability.
Yeah.
Also, I think for free users, I don't think you can export SNG files. I could be very wrong on
No,
that,
you
but I
can't.
don't
You
think
can't.
Oh, you can?
Nope.
Yeah. Oh, you can't. You cannot.
No, you can't. You cannot.
Okay, yeah, no, because
Yeah.
that makes sense.
So they
Yeah,
did
that
put
makes a
some
bit more
thought
sense.
into it, no matter how much we don't like it.
No, they clearly thought about how much money can we squeeze out of these people as possible. Except these people, are literal children.
Hmm.
Like, their entire business model is how much can we convince these 12 to 15-year-olds that they need to give us $10 a month or they're literally never going to be successful musicians.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
other
it's funny.
the other
let you
big
go.
feature is that's removed is MIDI. You can't use MIDI without a paid account.
Yep. Yep.
And I think you can't export as WAV anymore. I think you can only export in like 128 kilobit per second MP3 files.
As a free
Oof.
account. At
Yeah,
paid
as a
account
free
you got
account.
everything,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, free account.
And no automation.
Yeah, that's the
yeah,
kicker.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no automation. That's definitely the kicker.
I want to see like all the free account music that's like using MIDI and not stems, and see how much of it's like flammed to hell.
Oh, jeez, that'd be a nightmare.
What's really funny is, I mean, they might have fixed this for all I know, but Soundation used to do really interesting bitrate conversions. Like, as far as I know, Soundation operates natively with 24-bit WAV files. And you guys remember Audio Locker? You guys remember
Yeah.
that class from the past? Yeah, whenever you uploaded a WAV file that was like 8 bits or 16 bits instead of 24, it would try to convert them into 24-bit, and it would just produce this horrible screeching sound
Oh,
instead of your WAV file. But like, it wouldn't tell you, hey, this is the wrong bit rate. It's not gonna work. It would just produce this horrifically distorted, ear rapish version of what you were trying to import.
It would also use to decrease the pitch if you imported as 48, and it would bring it down to 44.1, and it just slow it down in the pitch and everything. So like trying to use things, you'd have to convert it outside first.
Yeah, for arranging audio clips, it's actually pretty good. Like, if you're not relying on the instruments in the studio and you're just arranging clips and you're mixing clips, it's pretty good. It's just the problem is there are better programs that are also free.
right.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, if you're just trying to, like, you have
But
to
they're not in
pay
the
the
cloud.
Foundation people. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's not in the cloud, but I mean Splice, which is also free.
Yeah.
Like, I remember very distinctly being like 14 years old and trying to work out GarageBand and thinking, wait, this can do more than Soundation can, and yet I'm paying $10 a month for one of these things, and the other one came pre-installed on my shitty little MacBook. So like what gives?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the old guys from Soundation moved on to create a new online DAW.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, I forget what it's called. Yeah, it actually, it's funny. It kind of looks like Soundation does now because they modernized it when they moved out, and then they
Ah.
both like followed the same track. But
Like what was that transition? Like, did they get bought out? Did they get acquired? Did they have to sell? Like, did they run into funding problems? Like, were they attached to a VC? Like, I don't. I've always been curious about Soundation as a corporate product, like as a part
Mhm.
of Power FX. Like, I've always been curious about how that worked.
yeah, I think well, Power FX itself is still its own thing. I think they just sold off the studio portion, probably for the cost of running it, servers and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that would make sense because because they had the new management team and then they overhauled the pricing structure. Like that's usually indicative of a change of management,
Yeah.
like a change of ownership. It's interesting. I've always wanted to visit the offices of
Yeah.
Soundation. Like just sort of rock
Out
up
in
to
Stockholm.
Stockholm
Yeah.
one day like, "Hey, I have 200 followers on your website. Can I come in?"
Yeah.
No.
No, Soundation fame it's really interesting, isn't it?
It is.
Like it's probably the most useless accomplishment I've ever because it only matters to people who are also on the website,
Yeah.
which is an incredibly small proportion of the internet surfing population.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember being so excited. I called my mom the first time I ever got featured on Soundation, which I think was like antimatter or some shit like that. Like go back and listen to it. It's a wonderful time capsule of how great we thought that we were. Uh, but I remember calling her, Mom, I'm famous now.
Aw,
I'm on the front page of a website.
that's
And then
cute.
she's like, oh, cool. How many people have listened to your song? Uh, 300.
I mean, as a kid, 300 is a lot of people.
Yeah, I remember
That's like
being
your
on
entire
vacation
elementary.
in Hawaii when I was 13. And I didn't realize that Foundation would count your own plays as play
Yeah.
stats.
Yeah.
So I remember being on vacation in Hawaii, and I just kept playing, refreshing, playing, refreshing, playing, refreshing, until it finally broke 100 views. And then I was so excited, I made my mom take us all out to dinner to celebrate.
Bro. I think when I got like 100 plays, I would like rock around in my chair. Like I didn't like exclaim it. I was like, "Woo, time to work on another track."
Time to pop an imaginary champagne bottle.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah. I wonder how
so.
Black Summer would have done if he had been on Soundation first.
Mm,
You guys remember him, right?
I think so. It sounds familiar.
Yeah. Hang on, sorry, my computer just.
All good.
Yeah, he's this dude from from the city I live in Australia, and he bought FL Studio when he was 11 years old, and then a month later he sent his first ever song to the ABC, the Australian national radio station,
Yeah.
and they played it on the internet because he was 11 years old, and like they sent a camera crew to his home to film him in the studio,
Jeez.
and there's this gif of him that's still floating around where he's got the fruity EQ up and he's boosting everything below 500 hertz to
Oh
like
no.
24 decibels. And he's just like, this makes it more boomier.
That's awesome. Wait, so what was his name? I want to try and see if I can find that.
Black Summer. That's
Summer.
him.
Black Summer.
No, it's hilarious because he lives in the same town I do, and he's just a couple years younger than me. And he actually enrolled, I think he's enrolling next year at the university I'm in to study audio engineering,
Oh
which
jeez.
is because like I remember him coming in on a tour while I was in the sound lab doing some composition assignment or some shit.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing him come in, and I'm just like, wait, is that Black Summer? Like 6 years older? Like is that him? Because at the time I didn't realize we had lived in the same city, and it wasn't until I went back and watched the interview, I was like, oh shit, this kid lives 10 minutes away from me.
So, you're going to school for music?
No, I study international relations with a languages minor at the Australian National University in Canberra, Australia. Uh, I took a music class my first semester because I already knew everything that they were teaching, because Mr. Professional Musician, Mr. Worldwide.
Yeah.
And
Mr.
it was
Worldwide.
it was like taking 3 classes instead of 4.
That's how it is.
Yeah, that's how it be. Uh,
I
if
remember.
if you take one music course, you get pretty good access to like their big fully kitted out studio, which is available at like 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
And since I was working the club circuit at this time, like a pretty usual schedule for me would be like my set time is at 10 o'clock after the openers come off, and I'd be behind the decks until we closed that night, which sometimes was until like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So it would be pretty usual for me to be up at just like absolutely stupid hours of the day, and then just sort of run by the campus facilities and work a mixdown or something like that.
Yeah.
Mixed down boogie knot.
So, Quentin, tell us how you started to do gigs at a Zoo Bar and Grill. Like, how did that come about?
Okay, number one, thank you for remembering what the place is called, because most of my friends and relatives haven't managed to do that. It's actually a really interesting story. So, I got my job at Zoo 2 weeks after I moved to Australia. I didn't know anybody there. I had no connections. Like, I go to the school I do because of its fucking cheap tuition. Like, all in, my degree costs like 30,000 US a year, and that's everything. That's tuition, housing, food, phone bill, etc.,
Wow.
etc., etc. And it's
It's
a
half
3-year
price.
bachelor's instead of a 4. So yeah, it's half price. And the school I go to is it's ranked number 6 in the world for my career path,
Wow.
and it's ranked at it's like number 23 overall. So like I get a better education than I would in the United States for literally half of the price, and I get to live somewhere where everyone talks funny and there's a bunch of weird animals just kind of around. So yeah, so I arrived there 2 weeks, didn't know anyone. Uh, my student residence, uh, my dorm that I live in, I lived in it the first year that it opened. I looked out and I got one of the brand new buildings,
Yeah.
and the building rented out the nightclub I later went on to work for as sort of the building's opening party. And while I was standing outside with someone I had just met, I was explaining that like I used to be a DJ in New York, and the owner of that complex just so happened to be having a cigarette at the same time. And he overheard me and was like, "Oi, did you say you're a DJ?" And I'm just like, "Yeah, I used to be." And he's just like, "Oh, well, I'll tell you what, how'd you like 2 nights a week?" And
Wow.
that's literally how.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
sick.
So he's
That's
just like,
awesome.
"I'll tell you what, the DJ for that party tonight, he's had to cancel because he's out sick. If if you do this and I like what I see, we can get it so that you work here regularly." So that first night was my trial, and I did very, very well, I'm told. And yeah, I worked there 2 or 3 nights a week ever since.
Well,
That's a
congrats,
sweet
man. It's
gig.
awesome.
Thanks. Through that, I've gotten to perform at some other venues in Australia, and I've even ventured out into Asia once or twice. So it's been a really fun, it's been really fun to sort of just watch it organically. And it's interesting because I never expected to be a more successful DJ than I was a producer. Like the only reason I learned how to DJ is because well, producers got to DJ, so I might as well learn how to do that. And it turns out I'm really good at that too.
Hmm.
It's
So
definitely
Yeah,
a steadier source of
DJing's a lot of
income.
fun.
yeah, it's a lot of fun. I think the the venue has a capacity of like 2,000,
Oh,
and I think we got it to like 1,500 a couple nights that I was there.
big audience.
Yeah, big audience. Canberra is an interesting town because it's sort of in the middle of nowhere, and we have 2 or 3 pretty major universities, and the drinking age is 18. So the bars and nightclubs are very, very popular.
Oh yeah, I'd imagine.
Yeah, like people on campus would know me. Hey, are you the DJ at Zoo? And I'd just be like, yes, I am. Please present your titties so that I might sign them.
That's awesome.
No, it's interesting. It's interesting. I'm not the most attractive person. I am somewhat overweight. Through this job, I had no trouble meeting women.
You're foreign.
That's why. Yeah, no,
Yes,
I'm foreign.
yeah,
I'm foreign. I had a fun accent. I had a cool job, and that job paid a lot more money than most students were making.
Wow.
I had a pretty good time.
Sounds like it was a good choice to go out there.
My second semester, around October, I got really, really sick with a neurological condition called narcolepsy, which is basically a disease where you just start falling asleep uncontrollably at random times during the day. So in October, I had to come home because I contracted narcolepsy, and I still have narcolepsy. I take medication for it. I take a stimulant to keep me awake during the day, and I take a medication that puts me to sleep at night. And basically, that just sort of overrides my body's natural signal, because if my body had its way, I would just literally be asleep all the time. Like, I'd be falling asleep on the bus, I'd be falling asleep during class, I even almost fell asleep at work once, which is hard to do given the volume of those places.
Yeah.
So I had to go home. I had to see a couple special doctors. I had to spend some time in the hospital, getting scans and shit done. And yeah, while that was happening, COVID happened, and now Australia's borders are closed, and I can't go back, and I'm stuck in America until all that gets resolved.
Seems like the college would have some sort of plan for that. No?
Oh yeah, no, that plan is remote participation, but
I've been there.
Everything is on Australian time.
So you're nocturnal, is what you're saying.
Essentially. Like it's just absurd the hours of the night I have to be doing shit. Like at like 2 o'clock, defending a journal entry or some shit like that. Or like we'll be talking about, the confluence of economics and geopolitics at 11 o'clock at night. And I'm just like, man, I just want to sleep. Why the fuck am I here? Because instituting a weird ass schedule like that is like the worst thing that you can do for a narcolepsy patient, because the treatment is all about using the medication to establish a regular sleeping pattern.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's an awful mix of requirements.
Yeah. I'll tell you what though, I have never paid for a drink in my entire life.
Oh.
Yeah, because it would pretty much come with the gig, I imagine.
Oh no, it's not necessarily that it comes with the gig. It's just that, hospitality and nightlife, it's a pretty high turnover industry. So like the full roster for 1 month at my club, those people would then get different jobs at like 4 other clubs in the city. So like after a couple months, I could walk into pretty much any venue in Canberra and I would know at least one person there, and they would sort there. Yeah, it's fun work if you can get it.
Yeah, that is if you can land it.
Yeah.
So I have another question too.
Of course.
Might be. I don't know if it's going to be difficult to answer because the project came out 2 years ago. But one of my favorite tracks that you were involved in was "Tell Me I'm Wrong." Yeah, really dig it. My question on that is, what was the creative journey? Like, how did that project come about?
So this is a really fun story. So Tell Me I'm Wrong came about when we had Soundation's biggest meetup in history in July 2017. And I hosted in New York City Daniel Elizalde, also known as Foresight from California, Tom Bellinger, surprisingly known as Tom Bellinger from the UK, Oscar Banda, Oscar Banda, known as Oski from Norway, and Oscar. Oh yeah, and then my creative partner at the time was also there. He shouldn't have been, but he was there. And so basically, all of us, we just sort of all came together, and we weren't originally we had thrown around the idea of creating a mega collab, but we didn't really have the facilities for it. Because all of us were using different DAWs and we all had shit equipment. And then my creative partner at the time, we were in a duo together at that time. So we were talking hey, I've got all the guys here, and he was just like, oh, my parents are gone for the week. Why don't you all come to my apartment? And one of the ways my partnership with this individual was beneficial was because he had a full bedroom studio. He had a full set of studio monitors, and he had a couple spare monitors, and he had a full MIDI keyboard, and so I had a good microphone, and I had my audio interface. And so when you put that together, we had full recording capabilities.
Yeah.
And so basically all four of us with no supervision, crammed into his mother's 2-bedroom apartment. we had fuckers sleeping on the couch, we had fuckers sleeping on air. Someone spent the night on the fucking balcony at some point.
What?
Oh, that's chill.
Yeah, no, on the fucking 32nd floor. And yeah, it just sort of happened. We were all just hanging around one day. We had ordered some cheeseburgers from McDonald's, and we were throwing them off of Thomas's balcony. And we had to... Oh yeah, no, I'm not going to provide context for that, because it doesn't need any. That's literally
No, it doesn't
all
need
it
any.
was.
It's self-explanatory.
This was the first time that a lot of the people that we had brought over had been in a high-rise apartment building before.
Mm-hmm.
So we threw a bunch of shit off of the balcony. We made paper planes, we brought our SoundClouds on them, and we threw them off the balcony. We ordered a bunch of different menu items from McDonald's, and we threw them off the balcony. At one point, we were we were making 2 separate orders. We were getting McDonald's and shit for us to eat for dinner, and then we were ordering a separate order. We were getting 10 or 12 of the dollar cheeseburgers just to throw them off the balcony.
The throw menu.
Oh,
yeah, we spent a lot of time throwing shit off the balcony. And so yeah, the collaboration just sort of happened.
No relation to the balcony.
Well, no, because the balcony was where we sort of figured a lot of shit out. We would just be throwing cheeseburgers off the balcony, and then somebody would be like, oh shit, what if we put this in there? And then we would all just run back inside and we would start recording.
So it was a brainstorming kind of outlet.
Yeah. There was a lot more than that. A day or two after we got there, we all took the subway down to Guitar Center, because this was before I had my internship at the engineering house that I had my internship at. This was before I was active, in any of New York's recording community. So Daniel was just like, "Hey, what if we had a jam session?" And the Guitar Centers in New York, they have these little soundproof rooms with a drum set and a bunch of guitars and basses in them, and then for $25 you can just be in there for half an hour and just jam. So we did that, and we jammed, and then we took some of those ideas home with us, and then the track just sort of started to form itself around it. Everyone had we didn't sit down and decide who's going to do what. It just sort of evolved to a pretty equal share of responsibility. For me, I added a bunch of little touches in the production, since everything was on Daniel's laptop, and both Daniel and I were Logic users. So I would just add a little bell here, or a snap there, or a riser here and there. My main what ended up becoming my job was originally I didn't want to sing on it, because I've always been super insecure about my voice, and we made a lot of fucking mistakes during the vocal recording process. For some reason, we ended up deciding against pitch correcting the vocals in any way, so they sound like shit.
In the full mix,
Oh,
though.
oh no, they sound good in the full mix because literally, so everyone went home at the end of July. It wasn't until February of next year that February, because like we literally did hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hundreds and hundreds of takes, because nobody wanted to pitch correct. So we just sort of had to splice it together, like phrase by phrase, to just sort of get the best sounding result possible. And I'm still not happy with it. So
That's the creative process.
Yeah. So I actually, I had some personal shit with Thomas, my songwriting partner, at that time, which informed, which informed a lot of the song's lyrical content. I'm very good at writing sad songs. Like, I'm very good at writing songs that are driven from, like, bad things that I myself have experienced. But I can't really write just, like, a song about anything else. So what ended up happening was I locked myself in a closet, and to make myself sad, I would, like, every 10 or 15 minutes or so, one of the guys would come in and just shout insulting things at me, so I could remember how it feels to be worthless. And so that informed a lot of the songwriting, and we came out with, I think, one of the best songs that I've ever written. Definitely not my best vocal performance, but from a songwriting perspective, if my best, if not the best.
Yeah, it's definitely a banger, man. Like, I still listen to it to this day.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I go through phases. Like every 3 months or so, I'll listen to this, and I'll just be like, "Oh shit, this is actually a pretty good song." Like I'll be proud of it for 3 months, and I'll hate it for another 3 months. And I mean, Daniel has said that he feels the same way about it. Like in private, we just like to joke about all the things that we wish we could have done had we had the chance to do it again. But I mean, yeah, I don't have access to any of those stems anymore, because me and Thomas parted ways after he stole my girlfriend. So I don't have access to any of the material that we worked on for like the 2.5 years that we were together. So yeah. End of the day, partnering with him was not my best move, but I'm grateful that it happened because I learned a lot. I learned a lot about how to physically like put songs together. There's a lot of great material that I wish I could put out, like with what I know now. But I think it's best that everything I do sticks to the stuff that I just do myself. And I break up with someone when it's difficult. So that's been a valuable skill.
Yeah. Do you have a last one last question for him, Gavin?
I do not. However, I should ask once again, if you have anything else you want to plug or shout out, social media, whatever, let us know.
I mean, it's just what I said in the beginning. Like,
Yeah.
I'm really proud of the work that I've put out. Like, I'm really proud of Interlocker. I'm proud of Deliriant. I'm proud of everything else that I have down the pipeline right now, because I feel like with the stuff that's coming on, like after these next 2 releases I have coming up, it's just like I'm gonna have my who is moment. Like, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, like like every single famous person, people weren't always born famous, if that makes any sense. Like sometime in the 80s or 90s, someone had to say, who is Whitney Houston? Like who is this person?
Yeah.
Like that's what I want to do. And I feel like what I have coming out right now is it's going to help me get there.